After years of dormancy, the Predator franchise has exploded with life recently, with writer and director Dan Trachtenberg creating Prey in 2022, followed by the animated Predator Killer of Killers earlier this year, and now Predator Badlands, the franchise's first film in theaters since 2018. But Badlands is also a massive departure from past Predator films, now having the alien hunter as our hero, and removing us from many of the familiar tropes of the series. Will it work? Can fans accept something this different? Well, I thought Badlands was great, and while it's not perfect, it's a really fun, fresh breath of air for the franchise, which has focused on the same tropes for a long time. It's also a type of story that I think longtime Predator fans that like this franchise outside of the films, we'll get to what I'm talking about in a minute, are really going to enjoy and appreciate. So let's talk about why Predator Badlands is awesome for this series. Predator Badlands comes from director Dan Trachtenberg with a screenplay by Patrick Eisen, based on a story by Trachtenberg and Eisen, and it stars Demetrius Schuster-Kolomotangi as our lead predator, the young runt yautja known as Dek, and Elle Fanning as Thea, a damaged Weyland-Yutani android that partners with Dek to survive the hyper-dangerous planet Genna. So by that description alone, you probably can already tell that this has a lot of connections to the Alien franchise. Now, you might be familiar with the connections between Alien and Predator already, but if you're not, you should know that Predator and Alien are both made by Fox, and several years ago, Fox was bought by Disney, so they both still coexist under the same studio umbrella. And of course, a few decades ago now, I guess, or a decade and a half or so, we got the Alien vs. Predator films, which were based on previous comic books at Dark Horse Publishing, as well as several video games, and a lot of different Alien and Predator tie-ins over the years, and that has sort of gone dormant a little bit in the decades since those movies came out, and most people didn't really like them. So this is sort of a restart to this whole AVP universe. But what I think it does really well is that it keeps those connections really light, and it uses it as a bit of world building, and of course for our android Thea, and a few other things that I won't get into yet. We'll talk about a few brief spoilers at the end of this review after I give my final thoughts on what I really liked or didn't like about the movie. But it is an AVP movie, but this is easily the best AVP movie we've ever had, and I think it works really well because it's more about the universe and the complications and adding some key pieces into the Predator story that we haven't been able to have in past movies. And now obviously this is set in the future, and we need more world building around who the yautja are and what's going on with these characters, sort of how they interact with the larger universe. So bringing in aspects like Weyland-Yutani, which is the major evil corporation of the Alien franchise, into this story gives it the pieces that it needs to make all these things possible. Whether this will go and form an actual true AVP movie or cross over into the other stories that have been set up by things like Alien Romulus, or even Alien Earth, we'll see. Predator Badlands doesn't give a specific date to when this happens, so this is obviously somewhat in the future, but does this take place after Alien? Does it take place after Alien Resurrection? It's hard to say, and I think they're keeping it a little loose so they can make those actual definable connections tangible in later stories, as long as this does well. So we'll see what happens. I'm sort of jumping all over the place, but I just wanted to get into that for a second because of that sort of rundown of what's happening here. But I really enjoyed Badlands. I thought this was really great, and I had a blast. It's a ton of action. And what I thought was interesting about this story, and I think it's somewhat obvious from the trailers, is that this is a sci-fi action adventure first, and the horror aspects that come into it from past movies of Predator are a lot less there. They're more about the aesthetics or some of the alien monsters that are encountered, and less about the actual storytelling. Obviously, I love the original Predator. If you've seen my past videos, I'm a huge Predator fan, and I think that what makes the original Schwarzenegger film so awesome is that it's part action, part sci-fi, part horror, and those aspects, and it's all a survival story wrapped around that. And those genres come in and out of the story and are highlighted at different acts, and that's what makes that original film so exciting and fresh and still work really well, is that the tonal balance is really perfect in that movie. It's hard for any Predator movie to top that one. To me, the original Predator is still the best Predator movie. I'll get into some rankings in a few minutes here, but I really, really enjoyed Badlands. I don't think I liked it more than Prey. I'm a huge Prey fan. I rewatched that recently. I think it holds up wonderfully well. And I was a really huge fan of Killer of Killers earlier this year. I did a short review on that earlier in the year, right after it came out. It was actually surprising to me that I wanted to do a review because I was not expecting that at all. Something that I think that Prey has over Badlands is that I just like the characters a little bit more in Prey. I really do enjoy everything here, and I think that Dec and Thea, who are really our two main characters and most kind of our only characters for most of this movie, are really great. And I think that Trachtenberg set out a very big challenge for himself to make this movie in making a Predator the actual hero of the story and our protagonist, our point of view character. And that is a big challenge because, and this is really cool, is that the Predator always speaks his yautja language, and it's always subtitled. We don't get a moment where the Predator, switches languages or uses some sort of universal translator to make him start speaking English. I'm really glad about that, because I think that would have been silly. That briefly happens in The Predator, the Shane Black Predator, and it is really bad. It's a bad idea to do that. So I think they learned from that. Trachtenberg probably saw that and said, let's not do that. But besides that, I think the story is really strong, but it's simple. It's a fairly straightforward story, but it has several really interesting twists I won't spoil here. Dec is out to prove himself to his father and his clan of Yautja, heading to Genna to hunt the mythical Kalisk as part of his initiation. But only by teaming with Thea can the two hope to survive the planet, defeat the Kalisk, and overcome the many new obstacles that arise along the way. So like I mentioned, the character of Dec is shown to be like the runt of his family, and that now he's a fully grown Predator. He's a lot shorter than everyone else. Right at the beginning, you see him, and you meet his brother, and you also meet their father, and it's clear he's several feet shorter. His features aren't as like strong and aggressive as the other ones. He's younger, and so he's shown to be this runt. And this is very light spoilers here from the very start of the movie, is that his father basically wants to kill him to cleanse their clan. But there's this initiation that every young yautja needs to hunt some sort of mythical, prey, something that is super deadly, like the deadliest of its species. And by killing it, or by dying, you will initiate yourself into the clan and become a full-fledged member. Dec has not done that yet. So he's on the run, and he goes to Genna to hunt this Kalisk, which is like, they say like their father even fears this thing. So he goes to hunt this thing to prove to himself even more that he's worthy of being part of the clan. And that is the whole motivation. And I think that the Trachtenberg and everyone here does a fantastic job of getting you to understand Dec super fast, understand his struggles, sort of his motivation, his flaws, and to follow him throughout it. And it's a wonderful, wonderful piece of character creation and writing to be able to jump into this whole fully formed sci-fi civilization and alien characters that have been just pure villains in the past, and to understand them and to just kind of go with it really quickly as you're following along with his path and going to this new planet. It's a smart, very clear decision to make Dec more human, more relatable, weaker. As like a runt yautja, he's still like deadlier than any living human being on our planet. But it means there's a little bit more challenge, a little bit more relatability, and he has this arc. And the arc and the story of this, I think, is just pulled from a story and a sort of a tradition that you've seen in all sorts of myths and legends passed down, as well as different actual, real world initiations for tribes and clans over the years. It's a very familiar story of, the young, unproven member of this tribe has to prove himself and overcome the doubts in him, and goes on this hunt and grows a lot along the way and finds new allies and friends, and sort of not only proves that he's worthy, but also rejects certain ways that didn't need to happen, don't need to be passed down with his people. And that's the whole story here. You just take it, extrapolate it, and put it into this really heightened sci-fi world where it's, predator aliens on this alien planet filled with these insane creatures, and it's super deadly, and the action is wild, and there's sci-fi technology, and there's synths, and it's really like you just extrapolate it and put it that way, and I think it works really, really well because we're trading on a very familiar archetype and a sort of a relatable experience. It's, it's this passing from youth into adulthood, and that is the idea of the story at its core, and that's relatable for everyone that can watch this movie. But it's also got really kick-ass action. The action is really fantastic here. It took me a few minutes to kind of like get on its wavelength at first. We have this opening fight, and I felt it was a little messy, a little too dark, and a little like the editing was a little hard to follow. But then after that, I felt like the movie really, really got into a really good rhythm, and I followed along really well. It's got a lot of great action beats, also a lot of different weapons. One of the fun things I love about Predator movies is that you get a mix of the classic Predator weapons that you're familiar with from past films, mixed with new additions. And I think that every great Predator movie needs to have at least one new cool addition to what your yautja uses. And here we get some returning things like a plasma caster at one point, the combi stick, a type of smart disc, not quite similar. That one's a little different. And one that I wish was actually used more is this laser bow and arrow, which I thought was awesome. That kind of generates laser arrows. And then the main new weapon is this like hyper-heated plasma-edged sword, which is commented on at one point like, oh, is that unique to your clan? Like, I've never seen that before, which Thea is talking to him about that. And Thea's a great character too. And she's, this observational research synth that's been on the planet to learn more for Weyland-Yutani. And so she has this wealth of knowledge, and together you get stoic Deck meeting with chatty, funny Thea, and it has a lot of these elements of comedy to it that I think work really well. And getting into this is something that I think I could see some Predator fans having a hard time with this movie, or at least being a little hesitant to watch it because it is a big break from everything. But Trachtenberg talked about this, and he's got an interesting quote from an interview. Speaking about how established Predator fans might have trouble with the tone and focus of the film, Trachtenberg said about Badlands, "So I'm well aware of the nature of that, and of course when we're taking such a crazy bold swing, I get it. I get there would be criticism, but there's worse criticism the other direction if you're just retreading and remaking the same kind of thing over and over. Then not only will hardcore fans not like it, but also just any fan of going to see a movie won't like that either. So for me, it's much more important to make something that is bold and original, and making sure the movie is super fun. And this movie is packed with action, high APM, high action per minute. But also there's something to take away with you. I always think about that. You just want something to put in your pocket and walk away with when you see a movie, and I wanted to make sure that this had that. So I think that having a yautja as the protagonist is a big part of that bump that some people might have in wanting to watch this movie or get on board with it. And the other aspect of it is that this is a PG-13 Predator movie, which is a big departure. This is an R-rated franchise, unless you count the original cut of AVP. But the straightforward Predator movies are R because it's very bloody and violent. There's a lot of deaths. There's a lot of action, humans getting strung up and having their skulls and spines ripped out. It's R, and you add in foul language and everything like that. It's going to be an R-rated movie. That's the franchise as a whole. Now, Trachtenberg has said that he wasn't aiming to get a PG-13. This isn't really a spoiler, but all the characters in this movie are either aliens or synthetic. And because of that type of action with the MPAA is funny. If you change blood color from red to any other color, black, green, blue, yellow, whatever, they'll take it less harshly. Which is, on a side note, why Evil Dead 2 used a lot of multicolored blood in when shooting to get around some of that, because there was so much blood in it. So they have this funny thing of like, well, it's not humans and it's not human blood, so even though someone's getting ripped apart, it's fine, it's PG-13. So he said that that was why it got a PG-13. He wasn't aiming for it. And really, the action is super intense. It is bloody. It is gory. There are limbs and organs flying all over. It's just that they're often, monsters or robots that's happening to. And so that happened. Now, I don't know if somewhere along the way Disney said, like, it would be cool if this got a PG-13 and opened up the audience a bit. So can we remove human characters, like if there was any pre-existing human characters, and just pop them out or replace them with a synth, and that way it's a little bit easier? I don't think that was necessarily the mandate. I wasn't behind the scenes, I couldn't tell you. I just sort of wonder, a bit of a chicken or the egg sort of situation here. But all to say is that, like, it is super action-packed, it is gory and crazy. And yeah, if this same thing was happening with human characters, it would absolutely get an R rating. This is it's really strong action. It is very intense, and it has all the grotesqueries of what comes with a predator doing this action. Besides that, the other thing is that I think that this plays this is going to sound like a much bigger criticism than it actually is that this plays like kind of a Disney adventure film. You've got your lead grumpy character, you've got the fun sidekick, and there is at one point an animal companion that comes in as well. And there's moments of relaxation, bonding, rest, a few jokes here and there. And there's this theme of found family. It is sort of a... This is, if I could describe it in any way, Predator Badlands is a Metroidvania found family movie. Okay, that's wild, but that's what it is. It's about these characters coming together and finding a new bond and creating their own clan to survive. And then also, like Metroidvania video games, they have to explore and push through really dangerous new aspects of a planet. And they have to gain new resources, find new ways to survive, backtrack, use the resources in new ways in order to continue to progress forward. That's Metroid. That's Castlevania. And I love that. This would be such an awesome video game. But it plays really well as a movie. It's not a movie that should be a video game, and it's not a video game that should be a movie. It's a great movie and a really great premise and approach that can also work really well as a video game. So I would love for them to do something like this, because if they're going to do another Predator game, they should do something like this, and not something like Concrete Jungle, or what's the one that was the asymmetrical online multiplayer that fizzled out. Do something like this. You're a predator and you got to survive through this entire inhospitable world. Really, really cool. So just to wrap up a few things here before I get into some light spoilers, is that, again, like I said, that sounds like a bigger criticism than it is. But when you balance that with really great characters, really awesome action, good story beats, and a story structure that I think actually takes a lot of unexpected twists and turns as it progresses, all those aspects of, like, it could feel cutesier, it could feel more family friendly, it could feel funnier, it could have these sort of cliches that hit you too hard. They are really worked in through this story really, really well, and I think that is a great testament to the script and the direction and our acting. Again, everyone here is doing a fantastic job with what they're given and playing it really well. Great tonal balance. I've said this before, but I've heard described that directing is tone control for a film. You have to have control over the tone to know when it needs to be funny, serious, dramatic, exciting, scary, and how you keep that balance through shooting an entire movie that is often out of order. It has to be edited months later. And to be aware of that on set and to make sure that is ensured in the filming and that it also comes through in the editing and pacing of the final movie is very challenging. It's extremely challenging. And it is even more challenging when your tone of the film shifts multiple times. And this shifts throughout it. And I think that Trachtenberg has fantastic tone control, and that's why this works so well, and why Prey worked really well, and why Killer of Killers worked really well. And I really thought this was an awesome new addition to the franchise. It pushes it in new directions, and it gives it a new exciting ideas that I think this franchise really needs. And I think that Prey is so awesome because it takes the classic Predator story structure and puts it in a new setting with new characters, and that made it feel really fresh. But you can't just do that over and over. And I think that Killer of Killers, in a way, was Trachtenberg burning that out of his system and kind of doing what we all wanted the franchise to do, which is to put that into more and more eras and do more. It's samurai and Viking, World War II pilot versus Predators. We could have full movies on that, but it would get kind of old, and that kind of like burn through it, so that Badlands can do something new without denying us those ideas that we've wanted before. I feel like this is a great AVP story and a great AVP comic and video game story, because it's all about this world where if you've ever read AVP comics or play the video games, you do get to see the Predator as protagonist, and you get to have the Predator in this this more complex world interfacing with the human side or the xenomorph side, and it becomes more complex. It's a much more complex futuristic world, and I love that. I wish that they had done this for other AVP movies before. I was always like, why is this set present day? Why is this set in One Tree Hill? And this finally starts to give us that, and it's really, really satisfying because the pieces and the dynamic of the world work so well together without getting bogged down. You don't get bogged down by it because you are focused on Deck's story on one planet, and I think that is what makes it really, really satisfying and strong. And I'm a big fan. And I would say, I'll put my new Predator ranking right here. I would put this as number 4 for my favorite Predator movies. Nothing's going to top the original, at least not yet. And I really love Killer of Killers. I put that number 2, Prey number 3, and Badlands number 4. Now 4 might not seem like amazing, but man, I love those top 4. And beyond that, it's solid and entertaining and eventually pretty bad down at the bottom. So putting Badlands at 4 after seeing it one time, I think is actually really great, given how much I've loved everything else that is ranked above it. Yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Badlands, and let's get into some spoilers. So, spoiler warning, this will be brief, but we'll talk just about a few things that happen near the end of Badlands. So first spoiler, or maybe not spoiler, is that there are no xenomorphs in Badlands, and I'm actually very thankful for that. When it was revealed that this was Weyland-Yutani, and of course they're connected with the xenomorph, I wondered, and there was this whole, Deck is gonna hunt this, the greatest, creature ever. It's is he gonna hunt a xenomorph? Is that what's gonna be revealed to be? Thankfully, no, and there's no xenomorphs whatsoever. Weyland-Yutani is after the Kalisk because the Kalisk can basically heal from anything. It can even bring its own severed head back together, and so it's the similar motivations of Weyland-Yutani wanting weapons and wanting to use alien creatures as their weaponry and for new genetic experiments. But thankfully it's not that, and I'm glad. They can do that later and have their own dedicated AVP movie. And beyond that, I think that I loved what they did with the Kalisk and the reveal of this little creature Bud being a baby Kalisk. I did not see coming at all, and I thought that was really cool. And then it made sense with the whole being part of the clan and the smell and initiating and these ideas of them bonding together. And I loved how the climax of the film sees Deck kind of go native and learn take together everything that he learned about the planet and turn it into his own weapons, his own tools, and to use like the hide from the boar, or to turn one of the worms into his little like organic shoulder cannon was really cool. And I felt so bad when the worm died. And there's, again, that's very Metroid. That's very Super Metroid right there. And so I thought that was awesome and really satisfying. Great action at the end. He looked really cool with that hide as his armor and mask. I thought it was an awesome look. NECA, give me a toy of that one. Give me every version of Deck. This is a super cool looking character. I love that. And then again, a slight homage to the larger Alien universe, but I thought it was really exciting that the final fight is not with the Callus, but is instead Deck versus the power loader. And this is something that isn't shown in any of the trailers either, is that Elle Fanning is actually playing two characters. She's playing Thea, who's our co-lead and the hero, and she's playing Tessa, who is her twin android kind of sister, who ends up being evil and is the final villain of the film. And there's this whole fight with Tessa in this super power loader with all sorts of weaponry, and she's got a shoulder cannon. It's really cool. It's interesting to be on the opposite end of a power loader fight, like versus aliens, and I really enjoyed that. Again, Kolomatangi is really fantastic as the Predator here. He puts in this great performance. And it's an interesting blend of, he's in a suit, full makeup. He clearly wore something too, but the face is CGI. Took a few minutes to get used to, but I thought it did really well because Deck has to be super emotive, relatable. There's at least a couple moments in this movie where it is a full, real physical mask that you're seeing that's animatronic. And that's really cool. It's really well done. He's awesome, and I loved his arc. And this sort of finale of him going back, I figured that it would end with him going back to fight his father, was really satisfying and is the capper. And great fight, and you see how much he's grown in this new clan that he's formed with Thea and the growing Bud. And it was very satisfying. I really enjoyed that. And then it's funny because this is a full, complete story. I love that they told their complete story. Really cool with the title drop also, like 20 minutes into the film, where he comes over the ridge and he sees the whole planet. And you even see some creatures on the planet that you never actually encounter. Like there's like a giant like worm thing. And it says like Badlands, and it's got the title, and it's got, the attribution and everything. Really cool to drop that a little bit late. And then you get a complete story, fights his father, kills him, gets his cloak, and they're formed. They're going to be a clan now. And what will happen? Boom, movie ends, Badlands, and then it's funny because it just, and then it gives you a post-credits scene immediately after. It's like the story has ended, and now here's one more minute to see what comes next, with like the ship returning and him saying like, "That's my mother," is like, oh, that's interesting. Hadn't thought about that at all. And like, is she the even higher up in the clan, or even all of Yautja? And it does make me wonder how this movie is going to tie into Killer of Killers, because that movie ends with our heroes on the run, on the alien planet, and you have them getting chased. What's going to happen next? And then you get this, you see the cryo tubes that have frozen Naru from Prey, as well as Dutch and Harrigan, which were added, which were a new post-credit scene added a few months after that movie came out, and tie everything together. And I just wonder, like, when are these stories going to collide? When is Naru going to wake up? Is this going to happen in another animated movie? Is this going to be, are they going to bring these characters into live action? Or vice versa? What is the next one? Is it Killer of Killers 2? Is it Badlands 2? Is it something else entirely? I'm very interested. When will it cross over with Alien? We've got the surviving characters from Romulus out there too. Are they gonna be involved in a story? I'm really fascinated to see. And forget Alien Earth. That's not gonna cross over to anything. It's so funny that this has a very heavy focus on a synth character who I love a million times more than any character in Alien Earth. easily. It works so much better. I'm really happy about that. Again, I was not a big fan of Alien Earth, as I did a review on that a little while ago. But this is exciting. To me, I'm still excited about stuff with Alien, but I've been way more excited about Predator stuff for a while now. This is all just so awesome. It's really, really in my wheelhouse. It's something that I get really hyped about, and I'm excited for more Predator. This is a cool, interesting next step because it really does set up future stories, different stories, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I really hope this movie does well. I really hope it does. I don't know the budget. I don't know what it's going to need to make, but I'm really hoping that this is a nice hit and it does well, and we get more really soon because I'm excited for more. This is super satisfying to me, and yeah, I'm excited. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on Badlands, what you think might happen next in the Predator franchise. There's a lot of different directions that they could go, and I'm excited. The comic books have also been super fun too. These different, mini-series they've been doing with Predator. It's just a great time for the Predator franchise to be a Predator fan, so I'm very satisfied. Alien I think is still in good shape, even if I didn't like Earth. They haven't even greenlit another season yet for Alien Earth. And if it's been a while, they usually greenlight that earlier. And if they don't, that will be just man, bad show, bad look for that show. As always, a huge thank you to my patrons and members for their continued support. If you'd like to be a patron or member, it's only $2 a month for early access to every video and exclusive reviews. Thank you all for your support. Thanks for watching, and I'm excited for more. Time of recording this video, I have not seen Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein yet, which is now on Netflix. I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters. I'm planning on watching it soon. I don't know if I'm going to make a review or not, but that, who knows. But I'm super far into the next big edited video, which will come out next week. So look forward to that. It is something very special. It is something I've promised before. It's going to be a big video, and I'm excited to share it with you all. That's all I'm going to say. So talk to you later.